Good morning. My name is Chris Averill, and I'm here to talk about storytelling and how storytelling can be used as an incredibly powerful tool. I'm going to bring up some slides to support my conversation, but I'd love for people to ask some questions to join in to be part of this event. It's so difficult as a presenter to just talk at a video of yourself and not to be able to feel the love in the room. So please jump on the Q&A, share some messages, just ask some questions, and it will make a massive difference to everybody on the session. Okay, so what is storytelling and why is it important? Well, I've been telling stories, I guess, for the last 49 years, but it was only 25 years ago when I started in business that I realized the power of a story. And I think storytelling is one of those skills that some of us have naturally, others struggle with. But it's a basic principle of life, how we share, how we engage, how we educate. And we're all born creative. We're all born brilliant storytellers. And as you grow up, society can really, I think, beat that creativity out of you. People tell you you're not a very good drawer. Your Lego model's no good. Your story's boring. So for the next 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about the principles of storytelling, how to become a fantastic storyteller, and how to use storytelling to sell anything, to persuade anyone to do what you want. It's a very powerful tool, trust me. So I'm semi-retired. I don't have a product to sell. I just want to share my experience, and I want to help others become more confident in pitching their services, telling their story, getting people to follow or believe in them. I used to run a creative agency, a design agency called We Are Experience. I ran it for about 16 years in London and New York, and we did a lot around transformational design, a lot around service and product design. And it was always a real challenge to get my clients and some of my colleagues to see what the future would look like without actually making the future. So I spent many years refining and honing how to pitch and how to tell stories in a way that brings people along. So today I spend my time flying planes for fun, hanging out with my family, and I coach. I coach a few companies where the founders are in a similar position that I was a few years ago before I grew my company bigger and I sold it. And I love helping people. I love that coaching bit. I coach a couple of charities, but I coach a couple of commercial businesses as well, because I get to hear other people's stories. I get to listen and understand. And then I get to tell other people about their experiences and share that story, that success and that failure. So storytelling is an ancient form. I guess it's been around since the dawn of time, since man stood up and walked. But actually, if I was a scientist, I'd probably be able to tell you exactly how storytelling works in the animal world. But take these cave paintings. They're from southern France, and they date back 17,000 years. 17,000 years. People have been telling stories through art before language existed. And they'll be telling stories for the next 17,000 years. I mean, that's a mind-blowing time. 7 years, 17 years, 70 years is a long time. So, how do successful storytellers work, and how can you take the key principles and become a brilliant storyteller? Stories can be told in many different forms. Pictures, words, video, models, experiences. I love pictures. I think pictures tell fantastic stories. I think pictures support the words we say. It gives us something to get anchored on. And a great picture, a simple, single image, can really portray so much information. This is my brother's swimming pool in Florida, and he likes to take a few more risks than any normal parent would do. And this story that this picture tells is one of stupidity, of fun, of breaking the rules, of just being daft. Who cares? But I love it because it's a simple image that really helps to get across a story. Stories need to be simple. If you tell a complex story, you're likely to get lost. You want a story that people can listen and then repeat. Like the cave art, a really good story is one that we can pass through generations. And in the business world, it can be passed from one fan to the next. Brands rely so much on storytelling. If a brand can't tell a really simple, clear story, then no one's going to be able to understand the brand and no one's going to be able to share that brand love. The problem is, we like complexity as people. We like to get really stuck into all the detail behind everything. And we want to tell every brilliant aspect of whatever it is makes our story up. And that often leads to confusion. So keeping that story simple, getting across what the key points are that you're trying to make, but do it thinking about the person who's listening, the person who's watching that story. Not about your expertise and your knowledge, but the end consumer, the customer, the client, whoever it is, your kids. You know, I tell my kids stories, I keep them simple. The principle here is keep it simple, allow it to be retold, and it will be successful. So, a simple story is super important. And adding to a simple story, and something that if you took nothing else away from this session other than one key slide, which is this: 3 is the magic number. Humans cannot deal with more than 3 new concepts at a time. So when you're going in to present or talk or tell or show and illustrate the values of a product or a service, just stick to 3 key concepts. If you tell 4 concepts or 5 concepts, the first 2 will be forgotten in that session, not afterwards, but straight away. We want to share, as I said, everything we know. And that tends to make us walk away overloading people, telling too much information. But we can build a story. A basic, simple 3 concept story is a fantastic way of starting, sharing that experience. And once we've shared the basic story, when we meet again, we can tell more. People can find out more information, investigate further. So 3 is a magic number. 3 simple concepts, 3 concepts that are new to me when I'm sitting there listening or I'm reading about that product. But there's more than just 3 concepts. There are a whole load of 3 types of reasons why meetings succeed and fail, why product launches succeed and fail. And as I look at this boardroom, which is an old photo, but I get a feeling, having been in a few boardrooms in the last few years, this is pretty much exactly what a boardroom looks like. I want to discuss a little bit about how to be successful in storytelling and how not to fail. So we take our 3 concepts. I'm not going to confuse people with more than 3 new ideas. But when I walk into a meeting, how clear am I on why I'm there? And this is a question to everyone listening in now and watching. How many times have you been into a meeting, into a presentation, when you don't know exactly why you're there? Someone's put a meeting in your calendar, someone's told you to go and meet these people, and you're not really totally clear. I mean, you love what you do, you're clear on why you know how you can present your thing, but you haven't taken the time or been given the information as to why you're there. And that's why most meetings fail. And we as humans, and especially today with everything being digital, Zoom, we spend far too much time in pointless meetings where the presenter hasn't given enough consideration as to why they're there, and the audience suffer. So let's pledge to stop suffering from today. Every meeting you present, every pitch, every conversation that's got to get across a new product or service to a new audience, we're going to commit to knowing why we're there. So when you go into a meeting or before you go in, even 10 minutes before, turn your phone off, don't look at your email, and take time to consider these things. Why am I there? What's my role? Am I an expert? Am I an educator? Am I there to sell, to stimulate, to excite? Be clear on why you're there. And then, what outcome do you want? Do you want someone to sign something at the end of the meeting, to agree to a price, to buy off you? Do you want to understand what their budget is? Persuade them to join your business? What is it that you want to happen in that meeting? Too often we'll go into a meeting, we'll present our great work, and we'll all shake hands and walk away at the end, or in the old days, shake hands. I've walked away thinking I've done a great job. I've told my story, but the audience walk out of that room or switch off that Zoom and go straight into the next meeting and have instantly forgotten what they were meant to be doing. We have too many priorities, too many things going on in our lives. So why am I there? What do I want to get out of it? And then finally, how well do I know my audience? Have I spent time thinking about who they are, what they do, what's important to them? Or am I too interested in telling the story from my perspective? I'm too wrapped up in my world, potentially my knowledge, my genius of what I know. So as I think about you as my audience, I don't know who you are. I haven't had the opportunity to see who's signed up and who's watching, but I hope you're here to find out how to tell better stories, how to use stories to sell successfully. And so I want to give you some simple steps and tips and tricks to make you a better storyteller. Because there are no barriers to success other than keep it simple, don't share too much information, and know why you're there. And I'm here to help you. So in the principle of three, there are three really simple rules to follow before every meeting that you go into. Thinking, feeling, doing. So we'll touch on the first. As I go into a meeting, I want to know in my mind what I want people to think. I want the audience to think I'm credible. I want you sitting there watching me to think, okay, this guy's been there, told stories successfully, and I believe what he's telling me. I believe the principle of three. And that's what I want. But I also want you to think I'm approachable. I want you to ask me some questions. Please write in some things in the Q&A. So ultimately, my most important thing is when I go into a meeting, what do I want the audience to think? And then when I know what they're thinking, I want to know what they feel. Because thinking is this bit, feeling is your heart. And when we're in meetings, when we're working with colleagues, when we're pitching products or services, or we're selling brands to consumers, thinking is important, but feeling is what really matters. I believe feeling is the most important aspect of storytelling. I want the audience to feel engaged. I want them interested. I want my audience to always walk away from a meeting having learnt something new. I mean, 17,000 years of storytelling might not be the most exciting thing you've learned in this conference today and yesterday, but at least it's something new. So feeling is the bit that I think shifts people from going, yeah, to I'm signed up. I'm ready to do this. I felt something, a connection that makes me want to move forwards. So what do you want people to think? What do you want people to feel? How do you want people to feel? And then finally, what do you want people to do? So thinking, feeling, doing. And doing, slightly weird word, sorry, but doing is about taking action. When I'm in a meeting and I'm presenting, I know at the end of that meeting, I want the audience to do something, to sign off, to buy. Typically in my old world, it was to buy my services, buy my team. It's easy to walk out of a room and hope they'll follow up. We're human. We're believers. We're positive. But the reality is, as I've said, people are too busy. They walk away. They have the next meeting, the next thing. So don't let people out of that room until they've done something, agreed for the next meeting, agreed to share with you what their budget is, agreed to sign the contract. So thinking, feeling, doing. These are the three most important things you need to think about before any meeting, any storytelling. So I'm going to share some examples of really good storytelling and really bad storytelling, or flip it. In 2014, I went along with my team to pitch for the biggest project of my career. It was to pitch to win the digital transformation of the Metropolitan Police in London. Now, the Met Police in London is the UK's biggest police force, and they're also one of the world's biggest and really most admired forces. And the police are difficult to work with for many reasons I'll explain. So I walk in to the boardroom of the Met Police. There are 25 senior officers, all in their police uniforms, badges, medals, brass. And I know why I'm there. I know what my role is. I know what outcome I want. So I start to tell a story. In the world of policing, it's very hard to do anything digitally. I need to go and find a police officer in the streets. I need to phone an emergency number, or I need to visit a police station. But I want to do things digitally. I want to be able to do policing like I do shopping or I do travel. But I can't. So I decided to use an example that's happened to me. Maybe 6 months before my pitch, I had some brand new bay trees stolen from the front of my house. A van turned up at 6 o'clock in the morning, loaded those bay trees into the van and drove away. And I had a CCTV camera that filmed the incident. So I phoned the police. I told them. They turned up. They couldn't get the video off the system. They went away. They came back. They tried again. They couldn't do it. They came back a third time and used their phone to film the screen of the CCTV. So as I'm telling this story, I'm looking around the audience and I can see I'm losing everybody. My story is interesting. It's connected to policing. It's about digital, but I've missed the point. I haven't thought enough about the audience. My audience does not care about middle-class people having their trees stolen. My audience is trying to deal with a knife murder epidemic. It's trying to deal with terrorism. It's trying to deal with budget cuts. It doesn't get and is not interested in my stupid story. At the time, I didn't realize what I'd done wrong, but I'm realizing I'm losing it. And this is an important part of storytelling, is not to be so focused on your story you don't watch your audience. So the second part is more successful. I move on. Luckily, this pitch was about technology and design and humans. So I start to tell the police officers in this room about how technology will fail them, how it has failed them. And I know they don't really understand tech. So I get a bag of components, I tip the components on the table, and I move all the components around, and I say, this is how KPMG or PwC will help you digitally transform. They will solder together a bunch of components to make you a buzzer. But 3/4 of the way through that project, you decide you want a light. And they'll tell you they can't make you a light. They've got to throw away what they've done and build you a light from scratch. Now, my audience is more interested, but they're not there. So I scrape all of the components off the table and I empty out a bag of Little Bits. And if anyone's seen Little Bits, it's a brilliant tool for kids to learn how to work with electronics. They're magnetic. So I put the Little Bits out and I build a buzzer. Click, 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 click. And then I say, you've changed your brief. You want to make a light. So I remove the buzzer bit and I click on a light bulb. And I said, that's how we work. The difference between us and a KPMG is that we are agile, we are lean, we're able to adapt continually to changing needs. So whatever we design, whatever we build will be flexible. I looked at my audience. They were definitely engaged. They were slightly confused. But the good news is we came away from that meeting with them agreeing to sign us up. And it wasn't just my slightly baffling story about batteries or my interesting explanation of how complex technology will fail them and simple, agile approach to technology will succeed, although that did help. It's because we didn't wear suits. We didn't wear ties. We were seen as being different, an opportunity for change, not part of the problem. So storytelling helped me to get across what we knew and how we appeared and how we approached the problem, helped them believe that we would help. So we won the work and we went in to help the police. Storytelling doesn't stop at the pitch. Storytelling was critical throughout everything we did at the Met. For instance, when you train as a police officer, you're taught in basic training 3 key principles: accept nothing, believe no one, and check everything. So my job and my team's job was to go into the police and help them go from being hands-on to digital. Now imagine this. You're in a room full of police officers and they don't accept anything you say, they don't believe anything you say, and before they take any action, they've got to go and check everything you're saying. How do you solve a problem like that? So again, we turn to storytelling. Rather than trying to explain and prove that we understood how policing works, which we never would be able to do, we decided to help them understand the customer problem, see the world through the eyes of their customer. And we did this through storytelling. We created a series of storyboards, pictures that took the officers through the real day in the life of individuals. Someone reporting a crime, someone not sure if they should report the crime because it's low level. I left my computer in my car's been broken into, no one's going to catch the criminal, but I need the insurance claim. And what we found as we started to tell these stories, in the very early stages, one of the senior officers was very blunt and very direct and told me he had no interest in stupid pictures. He needed tools in his officer's hands. But we persevered. We showed them that they didn't know their customer very well, that we could give them an insight into how their customer thinks and what the steps they needed to take to reduce the pressure on police. And this storytelling, this storyboarding became a critical tool through the whole project. So storytelling isn't just about how we pitch in meetings, how we present key ideas verbally. Storytelling is also about keeping that story going. We made it so simple with these pictures that the few officers who really bought into it early on were able to take these pictures, these posters, and tell the story to their colleagues. And that's how we transformed the Metropolitan Police. It wasn't technology, it wasn't design, it was turning every one of the officers who we had contact with into brilliant storytellers. We gave them the tools. 3 simple concepts. Everything the Met does should be informing the customer, reassuring the customer, and empowering the customer. When they talked about how digital transformation would work, our sponsors would say, we're going to help inform, reassure, empower. Brilliant. We nailed it. So this, for me, is really the core, the heart, the core principles of great storytelling. That if you really want to be able to go into every situation and think about 3 is your magic number. What are the key principles? What are the things I need to take away? But every time I tell a story, I need to think about what will the audience think? Or how do I want them to think? How do I want them to feel? The bit in your heart that makes you really change your mind. And that I know what I want them to do at the end of that meeting or the end of that story. And this is just as applicable for brands online, brands in the physical world, as it is for a sales pitch. Because it's exactly the same principles. You look at your customer and you think, what do I want my customer to think? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do? Do I want them to buy? Do I want them to tell their friends about it? Do I want them to become a brand advocate? So that, really simply, is how to become a brilliant storyteller, how to be proficient at getting out there. We're all amazing storytellers. We've all spent our lives being creative, but the older we've got, the more we've had it pushed out of us, squeezed out of us, told by our peers that we're not any good at it. So I ask you all to be brave and to start telling great stories. 3 is the magic number, 3 concepts. Inform, reinsure, empower for the police. 3 things to keep in mind every time you go into a meeting or a presentation. Thinking, feeling, doing. And if you get that right, the more you do it, the more competent you become, the better your story is, the more your story will be told, and the more successful you'll be. But the best thing is, you won't waste people's time in meetings. You'll go into a meeting, you'll present, you'll convert, and you'll impress. And I use storytelling myself. So when I sold my company, the whole selling process was far harder than I expected. I expected it to be a couple of months of fun, meetings, handshakes, dinners, and it was a grind. It was due diligence. It was boring. It was painful, and it was distracting. And in fact, the whole process was so different to the stories I'd been told by my colleagues who'd sold. I decided I had to write a book about it. So I wrote a book to really help everyone else who might find themselves in my situation, growing and thinking about selling, how to navigate those challenges. So I'm not flogging the book to you. I have no idea how many people on this listening in now have businesses that they own, that they're part of the leadership, that they're growing. But if anyone wants to read the book, feel free. I'd love you to read it. It's a fantastic, interesting view on my life and my story about how I built, sold, and now retired. And again, even my book is built on 3 key simple principles. Build it, sell it, retire. So I would love for some questions. I'd love to get people involved and ask away. If anyone has any questions they want to ask about key principles, about my experience, about some practical tips, what are the tips to make a better storyteller, then please ask some questions for me now. There's a Q&A panel, and we've got plenty of time. I mean, I'm going to end this session early because, again, one of my principles about good storytelling is once you've told your story, let everyone get on with their lives. Take a break, have a coffee. So we've got a couple of minutes. I'd love to hear any questions anyone has. Does anyone have any questions for me, please? Come on, there must be someone out there who wants to ask a question. Help a poor person sitting in front of a video of himself. Okay, so we've got no questions coming on. My details are on screen, chris@northford.co.uk, and I would love to help anyone. I'm not selling a product. I'm kind of pitching my book, but that's only a bit of fun. So anyone who has any questions, anyone who wants to follow up later on, anyone who wants help becoming a great storyteller, then please just get in touch. Just remember, 3 is the magic number: thinking, feeling, doing. And I've got a question. Okay, what story could be about the food supplement business today? Let's say what you would like to hear. Okay, brilliant. So we've got a really interesting question that's come in. What's the story about the food supplement business? So the food supplement business, for me, I'm quite into my health and fitness. The food supplement business is a minefield. Yeah, it's. I think one of the things I find about food supplements is how do you make it believable? How do you persuade people that it's a powerful, useful supplement, a tool to help you in your life, and it's not just something that's being sold to make money. So I would love if I was pitching a food supplement, I would want people to think that we had the science behind the principles, behind the pitch. I would want people to feel that this is something that's going to make them stronger, smarter, better. But not because we're saying it, because it's advocated, because there are athletes, there are performance people who are part of this, not just brand, but the development of the product and service. And I want people to sign up to a free sample, to sign up, even forget free samples. I want to sign up to a 12-month supply of my supplements. So for me, and I've seen some brilliant new food supplements, sports supplements, vitamins, a lot of it's down to branding. The way that those products are branded to make them feel differentiated, that feel part of a new wave, a new understanding of what's going on. And there are a number of supplements out there that are doing that, and I think doing it very successfully. They tell their own story. They tell it in a way that makes it feel connected to me, that makes me think I should be, I believe in that, and makes me want to sign up and buy them. So it's a great question. Food supplement business, what story do you tell? And I think there are some good examples. But the other thing would be is to as we did with the Met Police, is to we go and ask the consumer, what do they believe in? Why aren't they buying supplements? And then listen, and then tell the story they want to hear, not the story that we have created. Okay, any other questions that anyone would like answered? Challenge me on storytelling, please. Okay, how do you use social media for storytelling? Fantastic, brilliant. So I've just been reading an article this morning on influencers and how the amount of money paid to influencers is going to double in the next 2 years. And I'm going to guess that doubling is probably underestimating. I think influencing or influencers is such a powerful social media tool. And one of the reasons for that is they're telling a story. It's their story. There's I'm going to have to forgive me for not knowing her name. I'll look it up. She's written a book, English or British influencer, fashion, and her book's called Working Hard, Hardly Working. And her whole social media brand, her whole persona is her life, her trip through education, her finding out that there isn't the right things for her, her creating her own brand. Gymshark is another excellent example. Gymshark has sold so well. If you don't know what Gymshark is, it's another British brand set up by a very young guy that's been incredibly successful, against Under Armour and Nike and Adidas. It's because he has an amazing story to tell. He's come from a difficult background. He's created a product that connects with his age group, and he's told his story. He's fronted that brand, and that's how he's used social media to create a multi-million-dollar fashion brand in a very short period of time. Incredibly successful. So I think social media is the platform that you can use for storytelling. It's much more gifted than a lot of traditional static media, because it allows that conversation. It allows two-way interaction. Nothing tells a better story. Now we're talking. Thank you guys for asking these questions. My presentation comes to life. I'm talking about real things that matter to you and not just the things that matter to me. So social media, brilliant platform for storytelling. And I think influencers are the piece that if you get it right, that they're true, they're real, those influencers can really, really make a huge impact on your brand success. And as I say, if you look out there, look at Gymshark, look at Working Hard, Hardly Working, and see how these new influencers are creating their own brands and pushing those brands out against much, much, much more established corporate roles. Okay, I've got another question. Where is it? Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm a copywriter and was wondering if you had any tips on writing. How should you structure texts? Okay, copywriting. I was on a panel yesterday about UX, and we were talking about content strategy, which is not new, but it is new, as in it's the new thing that's very trendy, but it's very important. So copywriting and content strategy are absolutely critical aspects in telling stories. And one of the principles which I talked about at the start, is keeping it simple. When we're writing, we write with passion, we flow information, and we want to tell everything we know. So Lisa, to your question about copywriting, one of the principles is going to be keeping it simple. In fact, one of the panelists I was with yesterday said, delete 3/4 of the information and then rewrite that last 25%. And what you're looking to do is not necessarily appeal to everyone, but the people who you appeal to will take action. Now, I know that's a bit general, but it's an important aspect. It's about knowing the audience. And if you've got a very generic audience, you're trying to appeal to everybody, then it's going to be more challenging. But if you can start to get your clients to think about focus, about pitching this story in a way that really resonates to the audience you want to attract, who are we most likely to convert? Who do we most likely want to advocate this? Who do we want to, out of what huge scattergun approach to funnel filling, who do we want to take away the really important parts of our message? And who do we want to sign up to do at the end? So principles of copywriting and content strategy is to really know the audience, and is to really start to refine and reduce the amount of information presented. So we move from, and Lisa, I'm sure you're not there, but I am, move from a vanity thing to a detail, exact clarity. So from vanity to clarity. I know what I'm writing. I know why I'm writing it. I know who I'm writing it for, and I'm going to write a lot less. And that for me is super, super important. So we were talking about Amazon. Amazon hasn't redesigned the content on their site since pretty much when they first launched. And it's debatable whether Amazon is still fit for purpose as a marketplace, and whether someone's going to come out with a much smarter way of designing and copywriting how content is presented, how products are presented. And if they do, then Amazon could very quickly lose its position. However, the flip side is Amazon might be hiding things like reviews to make us buy more products. Who knows? So thank you for that question, Lisa. Excellent question. Okay, any other questions from the audience before we wrap up? As I've touched on, we've got really straightforward, there are only 3 things that you will remember when you leave this. And I want you to walk away with thinking, feeling, doing. Every time I present, pitch, write content, talk to anyone, try it in the pub, well, when they open, try it at home. What do I want that person to think? What do I want them to feel? And at the end of it, what I want them to do. And for me, if you can go away from today and you become experts at thinking, feeling, doing, then I've succeeded in helping you, and you will become the next generation of amazing storytellers. You'll alleviate boredom, you'll stop people dying of PowerPoint tedium, and you will change the world. So thank you so much, everybody. Obviously, you've got my details, chris@northford.co.uk. Please get in touch. I'd love to answer more questions and hear more from you. And good luck with your storytelling. And I hope you tell people the story that I told today. That's it. I'm ending the stream, and you've got 6 minutes of your lives back. So thank you very much indeed. Take care, enjoy, and it's been a pleasure talking.